everyone, welcome back, and today is week 8 of my Duran Duran album rankings. So of course this week we have Thank You, and we are halfway through the rankings now, considering that this is the 8th studio album and there is 16 studio albums. I can't actually believe that I'm already halfway through filming through all of the album rankings. Believe it or not, might come as a surprise, but I actually really like Thank You. And I'm not just saying that to, be different, like, oh, I like Thank You because no one else does. Maybe it is because I was not born in that time and I was not a Duran Duran fan since like the beginning of Duran Duran. So maybe that's why I don't quite understand the complete and utter hate this album got. I have read some of the reviews of this album. I've read some articles about the album, or I've at least tried to, because some of them were just so abhorrent that I actually just couldn't bear reading them, because I just found it so awful that they were, ripping into the album like that. It was really heavily criticised, and while it is fair to have an opinion about, music and not like an album or not like songs, I don't think it's really fair to completely tear the album apart, because, the band or the artist have put a lot of work into that, and, they were probably proud of their work and, happy that they made this album, and then people just come and tear it down. And I don't think that's really fair, to think of it from the artist point of view of being happy to release this album and then people are just completely horrible to it. But I digress. It was really hard for me to rank this album as well, because I actually really like this album. From number 10 to number 1, I had such a hard time deciding where I wanted to rank the songs. 12 and 11, I knew instantly what was going in those places, but anything after that, it was just difficult. And of course, I just want to make my usual disclaimer that just because a song is at the bottom, it doesn't mean that I don't like it. It just means that it is the one that I'm least likely to listen to, or I don't really listen to it a lot unless I'm actually listening to the album in full. It's not one that I choose to listen to. But anyway, let's not waste any more time and let's get on with the rankings. So at number 12, we have Success. Now, Success, as some of you will know, was originally by Iggy Pop. It was written by him and the original music was composed by David Bowie, and also a guitarist, I think his name was Ricky Gardenier, or I can't exactly remember. I'm really sorry, but I do remember seeing that and I didn't write it down because I thought I'd remember, and clearly I don't. And in the late 70s, Nick Rhodes would DJ at the Rum Runner and he would spin records, which would include some of Iggy Pop's. Now, I'm not a fan of Success. I do think, for me, it's really not my favourite on the album, and I've just never been able to really get into that one. And I haven't listened to the original. I will tell you if I've listened to the original or not. I haven't listened to the original of Success, I don't think. But I'm just not a fan of it because of almost every line being repeated in the song. I think that, for me, it kind of sways me a little bit, I think. And so for that reason, I don't really listen to it that much. I listen to it when I'm listening to Thank You in full, which is actually quite a lot. But other than that, I don't really listen to it that much. And as I've said, I don't think I have ever heard the original version. And for that reason, it is at number 12. At number 11, we have I Wanna Take You Higher, which is a cover of the song by Sly and the Family Stone. Now, I actually thought this song was about, drugs, things like that, but apparently The song was originally dedicated to music and the feeling that one gets from music, and I was quite shocked at that. I honestly did think it was about, you know, drugs and things like that. And perhaps maybe it might actually be, and it was just, you know, it's about music really. I'm not entirely sure. I am just gonna take the word for it really. I think music is like subjective, and you know, you can sort of apply whatever you feel like to it, or you know, I think it is quite interesting though when you listen to a song and then you think it's about something and then you discover it's actually about something completely different. You're just like, oh, that's not what I was thinking. But anyway, at number 11 we have I Want to Take You Higher. Now this is where it got hard for me in the ranking. I was having such a difficult time once it got to ranking between 10 and number 1. But anyway, at number 10 we have 911 Is a Joke, which is a cover of the song by Public Enemy. I'm pretty sure it's obvious what 911 is a joke about. It is obviously about the lack of response from 911 and the emergency services, specifically for an ambulance is what I read. And I think when you listen to the song as well, you listen to the lyrics, it is quite clear. Now, I know some people probably will not like this song because of Simon's rapping, but for me that's kind of what makes me like the song. And you know, I actually had a hard time putting this at number 10 because I wanted to put the songs that were especially between like 5 and number 10 in the rankings. I just wanted to put them all in the top 5, if I'm being honest. But I do actually love Simon's rapping in 911 Is a Joke. I really like how he was, you know, open to trying new like styles and things like that, you know. And I don't know, I just, something about it I just like. I do like the rapping in that song, and you know, a lot of people will completely disagree and be like, what? And I have seen people before like talking about his rapping and we're like, why did he do that? Why does a dog lick his balls? Because he can. That is what he would tell you. He can, and he did. There was also a performance of this song on Music Plus in Montreal, Canada in 1995, where they also played a song that I believe was supposed to be on Medazzaland, but it obviously wasn't on there, called PLU, and it was People Like You, I think. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that, but I have, and I just thought I'd include that little fact. I also haven't listened to the original of 911 Is a Joke. At number 10, we have 911 Is a Joke. At number 9, we have I Want to Take You Higher again. Now, I do actually like this song a lot more than I like I Want to Take You Higher. My only complaint about it is that I don't think it is the greatest album closer. And perhaps I'm just saying that because it's not one of my favourite songs on the album. I do like it. I think it's really funky. It's really, you know, dancey. But I do think, you know, there could have maybe been a different song as the last song on the album. But in a way, I do understand why it is the album closer, because it sort of has that right amount of energy. And I think you always want to finish an album on sort of like a high rather than a low. And I suppose as well it does kind of make sense to have it as the last song on the album. Now, I couldn't find anything on this by the original artist, which was Sly and the Family Stone. I could only find I Want to Take You Higher, so I'm not sure if I Want to Take You Higher again was an extension of I Want to Take You Higher on this album. I haven't listened to the original of I Want to Take You Higher, so I'm not sure if I Want to Take You Higher again is part of the original I Want to Take You Higher song, or if I Want to Take You Higher again is like an extension of I Want to Take You Higher that Duran Duran made. I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I searched I Want to Take You Higher Again by Sly and the Family Stone, and it just brought up I Want to Take You Higher, so you know, I was quite confused about that. So I'm not entirely sure. If anybody knows, I would appreciate the answer. But at number 9, we have I Wanna Take You Higher Again. Now, at number 8, we have Drive By. Now, Drive By is the only Duran Duran written song on Thank You, as I'm sure many of you will probably know if you have actually listened to this album. If you have, you will know that it is an alternate version of The Chauffeur. Now, why on earth wouldn't I like Drive By? It's an alternate version of The Chauffeur. And if you know me, you know I love The Chauffeur. So, of course, I was gonna love Drive By. But, fun fact, I didn't know until a few months ago, actually, that Drive By was an alternate version of The Chauffeur. Once I found that out, I was like, I have to listen to this. I think it was also in A Hollywood High, in the first part of the movie, if any of you have watched A Hollywood High. I think it's at the beginning. And once I listened to it, I realised that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is what that song is. That was at the beginning of the movie. Well, you know, I love The Chauffeur, and I was always intrigued by what that song was at the beginning of A Hollywood High. And then I found out that it is Drive By. The first half of Drive By is Simon poetically describing the hottest day in July on Santa Monica Boulevard. So the hottest day in July is seemingly spent by a man dreaming in his car, which, you know, I think is obvious because that's kind of what's being described. As the song sort of transitions into The Chauffeur, I'm pretty sure, you know, the woman in the song says something like, "This is the story of his dream." I think I remember reading something about that Drive By was a prequel to The Chauffeur. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but whatever it is, whether it is a prequel or an alternate version, it is obviously to do with The Chauffeur. And then, you know, the final half is obviously music from The Chauffeur, which I absolutely love. You know, I really do love The Chauffeur. I think it's obvious. I could just go on for days about The Chauffeur, but we're going to leave it there. And at number 8, we have Drive By. At number 7, we have the title track, Thank You. Thank You was a cover of the Led Zeppelin song, obviously of the same name, which was originally written about Robert Plant's then wife, Maureen. And the track also features on the soundtrack of With Honours, a 1994 movie, which will be the Duran Duran cover, I believe. Now, I really do love Thank You. I love the lyrics in it. I think it's beautiful. I have listened to the original version. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't that keen on the original from what I remember of it, and I'm really sorry about that for anyone who does like Led Zeppelin. I'm not criticizing the band. I'm not sure I've really listened to much Led Zeppelin as it is, so, you know, I'm not like making a judgment about the band's whole, you know, music catalogue. I wasn't that keen on the original Thank You, that is all. As I said, I love the song, I love the lyrics, and I love the way that Simon sings the song. I know that's, again, probably really unpopular. You know, I think it's a beautiful song. It's, you know, it's obviously a love song. I think it's quite calming, it's very relaxing. But usually I skip a couple minutes of the song once it gets to the end because they have a long instrumental. However, I do kind of skip it just before it cuts off so I can get that transition into Drive By. You know, I love a good transition from one song into another, and especially when it's into Drive By, which is about The Chauffeur. Well, it's an alternate version of The Chauffeur. I don't always. Sometimes I do listen to the song entirely the whole way through. Also, a little funny thing about Thank You is I always remember, did anybody watch this video of Duran Duran at Much Music? They spent like hours there. There was like 5 parts of it on YouTube, and at the beginning they're doing the sign-in and the promotion for Thank You, and I just remember, I always remember this clip. The lady who was doing the interview and interviewing the band for their whole spending the day with Much Music, she asked Simon about the album And at the end, after he like finished promoting the album, he said that he was dying for a wee wee, and Thank You was playing in the background. Whenever I listen to Thank You, I just remember that clip.
We even cover a Led Zeppelin song, which you can hear now, and I'm dying for a wee wee.
I just thought I'd include that Thank You was playing in the background when that happened. Fun fact. At number 7, we have Thank You. At number 6, we have Perfect Day. Perfect Day is a cover of the song by Lou Reed. Roger played drums on this track, and he was also in the music video, which I'm sure made a lot of fans really happy to see Roger again after 10 years. I remember when I watched the Perfect Day video and I noticed he was in it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Roger. He also played on the promotional performance on Top of the Pops as well. Now, Lou Reed said that Duran Duran's cover of Perfect Day is the best cover of one of his songs ever done. I have listened to the original version of Perfect Day. I kept meaning to listen to the original version. I kept putting it off, and it came on the radio one day, so it kind of just ended up being played for me, thankfully. Now, I did actually quite like the original of Perfect Day as well. It is, a little bit slower than the Duran Duran version, but obviously, the covers are supposed to, be a tribute to the original song, but they're not supposed to sound exactly like it. That's kind of the point of a cover. You take the song and you put your own little spin on it. However, I have heard that a lot of the songs in Thank You were very true to the original, and I don't think that's a problem either, because if you really do appreciate a song a lot, then, you do want to really pay tribute to it, and, you want to, it's sort of like showing your appreciation, I guess. Simon is also quoted saying that he loves Duran Duran's version of the song, and he was also quoted saying that he imagined he was singing to his daughter Amber, which he felt made the song become his. And I think that's really sweet. I remember as well, him and John were doing an interview in 1995 about the song. I think it might have been for the actual album, but they were discussing Perfect Day, and I remember Simon mentioning that he just, he had his daughter in mind and he imagined singing to her, and I just think that's really sweet. I do love the video for Perfect Day. I do like, that sort of like sense of like false reality is what I feel like it's trying to, give. They're in this big red padded room, and the camera sort of draws away at times and shows you that they're in this big room. I don't know, I just think the video is very intriguing. I do like it for some reason. But anyway, at number 6, we have Perfect Day. We are getting into the top 5 now. This is probably where it might get a little bit more controversial, or people might actually be a little bit more in agreement with these opinions. I'm not sure. I don't think anyone will agree with the song that I've put at number 5, which is Ball of Confusion, which is a cover of the song by The Temptations. Now, I think it's very obvious that the song is a political song, which speaks about a multitude of problems that were going on in and tearing the world apart in 1970. Now, those problems include the Vietnam War, racial segregation, drug abuse, crooked politics, and more. Again, we get a little bit of Le Bon rapping in this song, and as you can imagine, I do actually like that. But yeah, there's just something about Ball of Confusion that I do like, and I don't really know why. It's not so much about the political discussions in the song and anything like that. I think I just like it because it's catchy. But I like the rhythm to the song as well. I think, it's quite upbeat. It's, fast pace. I remember in a magazine I got, I think it was the Duran Duran special of Record Collector that came out last year. There was obviously a, page about like Thank You and talking to the band, and I seem to remember Simon saying that he didn't want to record Ball of Confusion because it didn't suit his voice, or he didn't like it once it was recorded because it didn't suit his voice. But I think he really did well on the song, and before I listened to it, I was like preparing myself for it to be kind of like, oh, I can't stick up for you on that. I can't defend you on that. You know, like I thought I was gonna have to be like, I'm so sorry, but I can't defend your vocals in that. But when I listened to it, I was quite surprised because I was like, is this the song that he's supposed to not sound great in? And you know, I might be biased because I think by now we can tell that I am a big Simon fan. Like, you know, he's my favourite member of the band. I think it's kind of becoming blatantly obvious. I didn't think that his vocals in that song were bad at all, you know. While I do think, you know, it was vocally, you know, different to what he is used to singing, I don't think he did a bad job of it at all. And I think a lot of people were just, you know, I think a lot of people hate on Thank You just to hate on it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if I can say that because, you know, people will just say, well, you know, been a fan long enough. You're just jealous that I'm a real fan? Is that the problem? Also, I haven't listened to the original of this song. But at number 5, we have Ball of Confusion. Now at number 4, we have White Lines, which is a cover of the song by Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel. Yep, I am one of those people that likes White Lines, and I am one of those people that doesn't want it to be retired from the set list. So what? Now, the original song was intended to ironically celebrate a cocaine-fueled party lifestyle. Although, in a way, it is also quite contradictory to that, I think. You know, when you think of the lyrics, don't do it. It's sort of like, you know, a bit of a do as I say, but not as I do. Like, I will do this, but you shouldn't, you know? And that's what I kind of get from the song. I believe Duran Duran wanted to cover this song about rumours around their drug use in the 80s. And I think it might have also been about the struggles that they had with, you know, drugs and things like that. I'm not entirely sure about that. I believe I have read something along those lines, but don't 100% quote me on it, okay? I do understand why they did that song in a way, you know, because they were a band that were really popular that had all these like substances in front of them that they could use, and you know that when you're giving that to like young guys, that's probably a really dangerous game. And you know, it did almost become quite dangerous for some of them. Thankful that it didn't, you know, thankfully. I do think that was sort of the reason why they decided to cover that song. I'm not entirely sure. I have seen it live and that was amazing. Once it started, I was just going crazy. I was like, this is the reason why I came. It wasn't the exact, like, it wasn't just the reason I came. I obviously went to the show to just see Duran Duran, but I really did want to see White Lines. Seeing it live was amazing. It's just one thing you'll never forget, I don't think, going to a Duran Duran concert. And you know, I've only been to one. I hope that I will get to go to more in the future. Really hope so. But I imagine that even if you've been to like many, you know, you'll always remember because it's just such a great experience. You long for that feeling again, you know. When you think back to it, you're just like, oh my god, to be there again, to be dancing and singing along. My passion for this band is it's just incredible, isn't it? It's crazy. But at number 4 we have White Lines. At number 3 we have Crystal Ship. Crystal Ship is a cover of the song by The Doors. I have listened to the original of this song. I've listened to it a couple times. I do quite like the original actually. I couldn't really find much about Crystal Ship except that it was originally a love song to Jim Morrison's former girlfriend, which the drummer of The Doors said. So I can't remember his name, I'm really sorry. That's the only thing I could really find about Crystal Ship. I do remember the 1993 Rock Live performance as well, where Simon thanks Jim Morrison for Crystal Ship. Sure some of you will have seen that and will know what I'm referring to. But I do like Crystal Ship. It's a short but sweet song, really. And I like that because I think, you know, if you wanted to listen to a song but you also don't have much time to listen to a song, Crystal Ship is a great song to listen to. It's one that I listen to a lot from Thank You as well. I think because it's just easy to listen to. I like to sing the song as well. I do think it's a nice song to sing. But I don't really have much else to say about it, really. I couldn't find much information about it. So at number 3, we have Crystal Ship. Now we are in the final 2. There's 2 songs left. Which do you think will be my favourite? At number 2, we have Watching the Detectives, which is a cover of the song by Elvis Costello. And Roger also plays on this song as well, which is really nice. I have listened to the original of this song. I actually had listened to this original before I even heard the Duran Duran version, actually, because it was actually in a scene in one of my favourite TV shows, and I didn't actually notice it was that song until I was aware of it on this album. And then I was rewatching the show and I was like, hold on a minute, this is Watching the Detectives, which Duran Duran have covered. So I kind of had accidentally listened to the song before, in a scene from a TV show, but I obviously gave the full thing a listen, and I do think it is a good song, actually. I do like Watching the Detectives, both the original and the Duran Duran version. I'm more likely to listen to the Duran Duran version, and obviously it being number 2 means I listen to it a lot. The lyrics are about a lover who would just rather watch TV. Watching the Detectives, it was quite hard between this song and my favourite song, which one was actually going to be my favourite song. I would say I listened to this one a little bit more than the song that is my favourite, but I put this at number 2 because I do obviously prefer my favourite song. Again, I like Simon's voice in this song. I do like the way he sings the song. I think it's catchy, and there was just a point in my life where I would just always be singing Watching the Detectives. I mean, there's always a point in my life where I'll have like one Duran Duran song just stuck in my head, and then I just continue singing the part of it that's stuck in my head. And I know that people just get songs stuck in their head anyway, but you know, like it's not, sometimes it's not for a day, sometimes it's for like a week. But at number 2, we have Watching the Detectives. Now at number 1, my favourite song from Thank You is Lay Lady Lay, which is a cover of the song by Bob Dylan. I love Lay Lady Lay. I think it is such a beautiful, calming song. I think it's very gentle, you know. I just like it for some reason. It's quite comforting to me. I mean, that's quite sad, isn't it? But I do think the song's comforting. The Duran Duran cover of Lay Lady Lay was released as a 12-inch single. However, I went online to look for said single because I was like, I've mentioned before that I collect Duran Duran memorabilia and records and, you know, their music. And obviously, Lay Lady Lay being one of my favourite songs on Thank You, it is my favourite song, but at the time it was, you know, I wasn't sure if it was my favourite. But for the reason that Lay Lady Lay is my favourite song on Thank You, when I found out there was a 12-inch single of it, I was obviously, I wanted it. So I went online to look for it. Do you know how expensive it is? It costs an arm and a leg, and that's not an exaggeration. I do own the actual Thank You vinyl, which costs less than it would to get a copy of the 12-inch Lay Lady Lay single. I am not kidding. Now, because the single's rare, I did expect it to be a little bit pricey. I was expecting about £150. It is double. In fact, it is more than double. The most expensive vinyl I own cost me around £200. And that was an album. I'm not going to pay almost double that for a 12-inch single. Obviously, it wasn't that price when it was originally released, but obviously, if it was a rare single, it's a rare collector's item, and, you know, the rarer something is, the more value it has and the higher the price is. But I definitely wasn't expecting it to be like over £300. So I don't think I will be getting the 12-inch single of Lay Lady Lay anytime soon, unless a miracle happens and, you know, one just accidentally turns up at a reasonable price, or I win the lottery. But I digress. Now, the original version of Lay Lady Lay, the one by Bob Dylan, was written for the soundtrack of Midnight Cowboy, but it wasn't submitted in time to be in the movie, so it wasn't, obviously. I think you can tell, you know, the song itself is about someone, like a man, being in love with a woman. What I get from it, and I'm not entirely sure if this is correct, I didn't completely look into the meaning of the song. To me, it sounds like a man who sees a woman who's with another man who he doesn't think is right for her, and so he, you know, he wants her to be with him. But at the same time, I'm also unsure if it is actually sung from like a third person perspective rather than a first person, you know. When you think of the lyrics like, his clothes are dirty but his hands are clean, and you're the best thing that he's ever seen. And also the lyric that's like, stay lady stay with your man a while. I wasn't sure if that was, you know, it was a first person perspective of like a man singing about a woman who's with another man and he wants the woman, or if it was actually from a third person perspective singing about, you know, a man and a woman who are in love and he's like, this is your man, lady, you know? I'm not entirely sure, but those are my two sides of that song, and both of them might be wrong. But anyway, number one, my favourite song from Thank You is Lay Lady Lay. But anyway, that concludes my ranking of Thank You by Duran Duran. Now, like I said at the beginning, it was so hard to rank this album once I got in the final 10. If I could have put them all, besides Success and I Want to Take You Higher, in the top 5, I probably would have, because I do actually really like Thank You. I know that is so unpopular, but I will always be a defender of the Thank You album. I don't care if other people disagree and think it's the worst album ever. I really like it, and that's my opinion. We do have another 8 weeks to go. Obviously, the next album will be Medazzaland, which I'm looking forward to again. I really like Medazzaland. I know I like the albums that most people don't, but I've always been like that. I've always been the person who likes things that most people don't, and I'm not so keen on the popular things that many people do like. So, you know, that's just me, and I'm really looking forward to ranking Medazzaland next week. Of course, as I said, we've still got 8 weeks to go. I'm doing these album rankings weekly, so if you would like to stick around for that, it is appreciated. And until the next one, bye. 911 is a joke in your town.